Welcome to International Politics of Climate Change. I'm Ben Habib, your subject coordinator. I'm delighted to be sharing the journey with you as we explore climate change from the perspective of international relations. I'm easy to find. If you need to get in touch, you can do so via email, or if you're interested in my work, you can check out my various professional activities on my blog or my Twitter feed. Over the course of our POL3 IPC journey, we're going to examine global climate politics across numerous different international relations policy domains. Climate politics encompasses a web of complex and interrelated transnational processes that impact on all aspects of global affairs. And these processes filter down to the local level too to impact directly on all of us. Our POL3 IPC journey is going to take us from political economy and international institutions to security, geopolitics and geoengineering, and from sea level rise and global justice to First Nations sovereignty and social movements. So you can see we're covering a vast suite of different issue areas here. While POL3 IPC focuses on the international level specifically, in the process, we'll come to see that climate change is ultimately about us and our place in the world. We are inevitably players in global climate politics, and I hope that you come away from POL3 IPC energised to make a positive contribution in that capacity. The things we'll cover in the subject intro video here are first, where I'm coming from as the lecturer and the facilitator of your POL3 IPC journey. Then we'll look at the subject delivery, including the content, the LMS page and class commitments, as well as an outline of the assessment regime. And then I'll wind up by introducing wellbeing and study assistance resources that you can draw upon. I think it's important for me to be upfront about where I'm coming from as your lecturer. There's a common myth that university lecturers are meant to be apolitical. Now, this idea comes from a bygone age of the professor in a tweed jacket dispassionately talking about the objects of his study with clinical detachment. Like the Indiana Jones franchise, this view of academia is largely a fiction. From my perspective, everything is political, and therefore it's impossible not to adopt a political position in anything one does. And this is particularly true in the case of climate change politics. As you'll hear me say repeatedly, we're all inevitably actors in climate change politics because we're humans who are a species within larger ecosystems of life on this planet that are all being impacted by the effects of climate change. So we're in it whether we like it or not. We all bear a level of responsibility for the problem, we're all impacted by it, and we all have some agency in how we respond to it. And all of that is mediated by politics. It's also not my job to spoon feed you information from one perspective or to tell you what you want to hear. You need to approach everything with a critical mind and with a method for critical scrutiny, a bit like the methodology that you see on the slide here. So with that in mind, my approach is to be straight up about the assumptions that shape my politics and to give you access to a diverse range of voices on the subject material and to encourage you to make up your own damn mind, based on critical engagement with numerous theoretical positions and different bodies of evidence. Let's touch on my worldview and my ethical and moral commitments here. So I teach into the permaculture design course at Ceres Environment Park in Brunswick. And I think the three core permaculture ethics best summarise my political foundation. So these are care for people, care for the earth, and fair share. And I believe in the holistic integration of these ethical principles. So you've got to do all of them at the same time. Doing one or the other exclusively, is a distortion and leads to ethical conundrums. Permaculture thinking is based on an understanding of complex systems. So with that in mind, I see all people and all non-human species and places as interconnected through complex webs of relationships. From a systems perspective, I have a problem with the ideological framing of climate change as a matter of belief and as a site for culture wars and partisan political gamesmanship. As someone who's often felt like an outsider, I feel uncomfortable about being a true believer, and I've never been a member of any political party, though I have participated in numerous activist and community organisations over the years. It goes without saying that I've got no time for bigotry in any of its forms, and I condemn the weaponisation of misinformation and hate. In the same way that you're developing your own personal politics right now, I've reached my positions through a long process of formal learning, through life experience, and through a lot of critical self-reflection. I try to base my positions on the best available evidence and by critically evaluating different points of view. I try to understand the complex interrelationships of how I relate to everyone and everything around me, from the local to the global level. I think this is a great skill for any IR practitioner. For better or worse, I've also been shaped by the contexts in which I grew up. Growing up in a middle-class, multi-ethnic family in both urban and regional settings. Being neurodivergent also adds another layer of complexity to me as a political animal, and I'll have more to say about this in a minute. So I share all this to be upfront about what shapes my interpretation of global climate politics, and to prompt you to reflect on the assumptions, the commitments, and the history that shapes your politics, because that'll influence how you engage with the subject material. A few years back, I was sitting in on a class by my colleague Carol de Cruz, where she posed an important question to her students. What is your responsibility to your politics? I encourage you to take Carol's question to heart, as I have. Reflect deeply on your role within the larger ecosystem of global climate politics, as climate change is the inevitable background that's shaping politics of this century. How are you going to respond? Keep this question front of mind as we progress through the subject. Pol3 IPC is designed to holistically integrate video and text content with weekly assessment activities, all of this which is hosted online. Everything you need to complete the subject is available on the LMS page, and this is your one-stop shop for all the subject information, for all the content videos and reading and research material, as well as a link to the Zoom tutorial. I encourage you to explore the LMS page fully and get acquainted with its layout and its functionality. Please do let me know if there are any functionality issues with the page, as these inevitably seem to crop up. And also if you have any compatibility issues with the LMS page at your end. So either way, I'll try and address any problems that arise as soon as I can. Each week, there'll be 3 content videos. There'll be one from me, and there'll be 2 short clips from relevant experts, practitioners, or participants in global climate politics. So this way, you'll get to hear from a diverse range of voices, not just from me. The videos are relatively short for your viewing pleasure, and their role is as a gateway. So the role of the videos is to provide an introductory snapshot for each weekly topic, to complement the more detailed material that you'll engage with in the written text and flesh out in the assessment tasks. Bear in mind that you'll need to cite each of these videos in your weekly research journal entries. Now, you'll also notice in the videos that there are a number of hand-drawn graphics through the slides, like some of the ones you see here. These were drawn by Pol3 IPC students in 2019 and 2020, documenting their emotional reactions to climate change. And this is an activity I invite you to do in week 2. You'll also notice a number of graphics featuring the @ClimateEducated tag. Climate Educated is an initiative on Instagram that's being run by former Pol3 IPC students Ruby Nuns and Danielle Egan. And they set this up to provide young people with easily digestible visual information on climate change, inspired by what they've learned in this subject. Ruby and Danielle have been kind enough to share some of their content for inclusion in the Pol3 IPC video series, and I do encourage you to check out their Instagram site. At that tag, the full link is in the credits at the end of this video. The reading material each week is integrated with the research journal assessments. And here's how it works. You're asked to choose 3 of the texts from the Sources for Research Journal folder that's provided in each LMS weekly topic box. These folders include academic sources and authoritative reports that I've assembled for this class specifically. Your chosen texts constitute your prescribed readings for the week, as well as cited evidence for your research journal entries, so they serve this double function. They're also there for you to access informally. So if you're really into any of these topics and you want some additional information, this source is a goldmine. Many of the sources that are in this folder are rare birds that aren't readily available through the library catalogue. So please do make use of this specially curated resource, and by all means feel free to save all of these files in PDF form for your own use. I've scheduled a non-compulsory 1-hour online tutorial each week on Zoom from 5 p.m. on Tuesdays, beginning in week 2. Now I want to stress, attendance is entirely optional for this class. It's not listed on Allocate Plus. This is an informal class, and it's there to provide some space to workshop the research journal entries and do some hands-on activities related to each week's topic. But it's not at all necessary for you to attend this in order to get through the subject and pass and do well. It's only there if you want it. The link to access this weekly Zoom seminar is listed on the LMS along with the access password. If you'd like to chat with me privately, my student consultation period for Pol 3 IPC is in the 30 minutes immediately following the tutorial. So to access this, use the Zoom link for the tutorial. So stay on the line if you're already in the tute, or jump on just before 6 o'clock. Onto the Zoom and you can access one-on-one help with me. The tutorial is definitely the place to ask questions about the research journal entries and to get into more detail about my written feedback if you want clarifications there. The assessment regime for this subject is very straightforward. So as I hinted at earlier, our learning in Pol 3 IPC is structured around a weekly research journal, which is designed to help you to systematically explore the subject content through a series of discrete, smaller written tasks. So each week, from weeks 3 to 12, you're asked to submit a 400 to 450 word research journal entry. Now, each one of these is worth 10% of your final grade. Now, while these entries individually are not as long as a standard essay, each research journal entry should nonetheless be a structured piece of academic writing. By fully integrating each weekly topic as an assessment activity, the intention is that you'll learn more through regular applied engagement with the subject material, but without the stress of a larger written assessment looming over your head at the end of the semester. So by the end of semester, you'll have developed a body of work that demonstrates that you've got a sound grasp of the complexities, the vulnerabilities, and the interrelationships that characterise and problematise international climate politics. So this will really help you to develop a sophisticated body of knowledge on our subject. And you'll also find, I think, that through regular weekly posting, your writing is likely to improve. So writing is like an exercise. The more often you do it, the better you'll get at it. Full instructions for the research journal are available in the Subject Learning Guide and on LMS in the Assessment Instructions topic box. You can submit your journal entries in the dedicated forums located in each weekly topic box. Ideally, I'd like you to submit your postings by 11:59 p.m. each Thursday night so that I can mark them and get back to you with feedback on the following day. However, I understand life does get in the way of our best study plans sometimes, and especially during COVID times. So I'm happy to be flexible around when you submit your journal entries. So long as they're all there, so long as they're all submitted by the end of week 12, I'll be happy with that. But the caveat, please don't let them pile up. You don't want to be stuck with many journal entries to finish at the end of the semester with assignments for other subjects due at the same time. That's a stress bomb, and you don't need that. If you need some help with your postings, or if circumstances arise that impact on your ability to complete the research journal entries, please do get in touch. We'll figure something out as a team to help you get over the line. Also, we'll discuss the research journal each week during the Zoom tutorial, or you can speak with me privately immediately following the tutorial in my consultation period. So there'll be plenty of time for help and assistance scaffolded through the subject. For those of you who like to diarise, this is the specific submission schedule for the research journal. A copy of this graphic is available in the Subject Learning Guide too. Each Friday, I'm going to provide detailed written feedback to the student group on the LMS discussion forum for each week's journal entry, and that will also be automatically emailed to your uni email address. My weekly feedback will include notes on what students have done well in their journal entries. I'll also list common problems that I encountered across the journal entries, and I'll provide suggestions for improvement based on the assessment criteria that's provided on LMS. Now, please bear in mind, it's not realistically possible for me to provide individualized written feedback for each student on a weekly basis in a subject of this size. So think of my written feedback as a checklist for you to follow as you prepare for subsequent journal entries. So assume all of the feedback applies to you, and then if you follow those suggestions for improvement, you're likely to do very well in this activity. If you do the work, you'll get the results. However, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to devote time during the tutorial to answering any questions you have about this task. So there'll be plenty of time to ask me specific questions in person about your journal entries. I want to touch briefly on well-being. Universities are elite professional environments, which come with a lot of stress. There are natural stresses that come with challenging yourself and trying your best in this environment. There's stresses that come with expanding your social horizons and figuring yourself out as a person. And there's stresses that come from grappling with the disorientation that goes with learning new things. And that's not to mention the stresses of trying to navigate the maddening tomfoolery of the uni bureaucracy, which drives me around the bend as well. On top of that, we all inevitably bring our baggage with us to campus. That's students and staff alike. Even for me, this place can be a vortex. So I'm really big on focusing on well-being for you, for me, and for my peers. And when I talk about well-being, I don't mean the tick box corporate bullshit version of well-being. I mean actually giving a shit about you as a human being. That's really important to me. And just to illustrate where I'm coming from with this picture here is a still taken from me having a nationally televised panic attack on ABC TV back in 2016. I was invited to the studio to give comment on North Korea, on one of my research specialities. And in that moment, I melted down. And that was a deeply stressful and embarrassing moment for me. But it was also a moment which ultimately led me to confront my lifelong battles with anxiety and depression, which in turn led me to discover that I'm autistic. So now I'm a staunch advocate for mental health and neurodiversity. And if you're interested in what I've had to say publicly about this, you can see my collected writings and public comments about my experiences through the link here to my blog. Now, I share this as a gesture of empathy and trust. So if there's anything going on in your life that's impacting on your studies, you know where I'm coming from and what experiences I bring to the table, and you know that I'm a safe port of call if you've got any specific needs. We're a diverse community here at Trobe University. Everyone's coming in from unique backgrounds, everyone's coming in with unique life experiences, and is coming in facing unique life challenges. Uni doesn't happen in a vacuum. Life happens, shit happens, and the baggage of our society's socioeconomic cleavages is also felt here in the uni community too. Now, I may be a middle-class, straight, pasty-faced white boy, but I'm not blind to issues of bigotry and systemic discrimination in our community, and I'm not blind to how they might play out in the university as well. As I said, I'm totally against bigotry in all its forms, but systemic discriminations don't evaporate because of good intentions. It does require hard work and a lot of listening, and particularly from people who look like me. So wherever you're coming from, know that I see you, and more importantly, know that I'm ready to listen, and I'm ready to work with you to facilitate anything you need to thrive in your Pol 3 IPC journey. So whatever happens, we'll figure it out as a team. That being said, I'm not a mind reader, and I can't offer you assistance unless you ask for it. So if you do find yourself struggling for whatever reason, the sooner you seek out help, the better, and even if it's just to touch base. Now, you don't have to come to me directly either. I can help you out with assistance to get you through Pol 3 IPC, but if you need more specialised support, or if you want to come to me through an intermediary, then I encourage you to make use of the university's numerous support services, which you can see illustrated here. These links are provided for on the LMS page if you want to link directly from there, but this stuff's easy to find through the uni website. I'd also like to point you in the direction of Accessibility Hub, which was formerly known as the Equity and Diversity Unit. So if you're living with a physical, mental health or neurological condition, or if you're a carer for someone who has high care needs, you can register for tailored assistance from Accessibility Hub. So the Accessibility Hub offers advice for managing study. They can give you assistance on getting alternative arrangements for subject delivery and assessment activities based on your specific needs. And they can also arrange for assistive technologies to help you with your studies. So they do this by giving you a learning access plan. And a learning access plan is like the magic key that unlocks assistance from the university without you having to go into your personal details about your circumstances every time you need something from a lecturer or from the bureaucracy. So it's definitely worth getting one to grease the wheels of the uni bureaucracy if you have any specific needs. The breadth of the Pol 3 IPC journey will challenge you. It's going to challenge you intellectually, philosophically, ethically, and emotionally. So this is big stuff with big implications. The final thought, though, I'd like to leave you with is this. If climate change is a symptom of a society that's deeply sick, and I would argue that it is, then we are the medicine that can heal it. So this sickness and healing symbolism also has added layers of meaning in light of the COVID pandemic as well. And the climate change COVID connection is something to mull over as we progress through this semester because there's a lot of complementarities and resonances there. Okay, that's everything you need to know ahead of your Pol 3 IPC journey. It's my pleasure once again to welcome you to the subject. And of course, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Good luck and all the best for the coming semester. I'm really looking forward to working with you.